I walked in on my bride being pinned between my best friend and another guy, just hours before our wedding. She screamed, "You're not supposed to see me yet," as if I'd interrupted a photo shoot instead of catching her in the most disgusting scene imaginable. That moment froze in my head, her makeup half done, her dress pushed up, the two men scrambling like trapped rats. The air was thick with perfume, sweat, and panic. My heart didn't even know how to react, beat faster or stop altogether. I just stood there, watching the love of my life turn into a stranger in front of my eyes. I didn't yell. I didn't throw things. I didn't ask why. All I felt was this cold, sharp calm, the kind that comes right before a storm. For the past year, I'd lived for this day. The proposal under the stars, the late-night wedding plans, the arguments over color palettes, all of it suddenly looked like a bad joke. My best friend, the guy I trusted with every secret, the one who stood beside me through everything, couldn't even look at me. His eyes darted between the floor and her. The third man, some random face I didn't even recognize, bolted first. Coward. She tried to speak. "It's not what it looks like," she said, which made me laugh, actually laugh, because there's no line in the world more ridiculous than that one. I could have screamed. I could have made a scene. But something inside me decided this moment wasn't for words. I stepped closer. She backed away, clutching her torn sleeve, eyes wide. That's when I said quietly, "You're right, I'm not supposed to see you. But you made sure I'll never forget what I saw." I didn't remember making the next move, just the sound. A sharp, heavy sound that cut through the room, followed by a gasp. Then silence. Her hand went to her mouth, the engagement ring glinting under the light. I took that hand, slid the ring off her finger, and put it in my pocket. No yelling. No tears. Just finality. She fell to the floor, whispering my name, but I was already walking away. Down the hallway, past the pictures we'd hung together, past the flowers meant for the altar. Every step felt like walking out of a life I didn't recognize anymore. Outside, the morning was still perfect, blue sky, sunlight hitting the pavement, the air thick with that wedding day energy everyone else was still celebrating. My phone buzzed nonstop, her calls, her mother's, my groomsmen, but I didn't pick up. I got into my car, rolled down the window, and just sat there for a moment, listening to the sound of my own breathing. It was the calmest I'd ever been. I looked at my reflection in the rearview mirror, tuxedo perfectly pressed, boutonniere pinned just right, and thought, so this is what dying on the inside feels like. Then I drove away, leaving behind the woman I thought I'd marry, the man I thought was my brother, and the version of myself that believed in happy endings. That morning was supposed to start my forever. Instead, it buried it. The road blurred as I drove, but my mind was razor sharp. I remember every detail, the weight of the ring in my pocket, the silence after the chaos, and the faint smell of her perfume still clinging to my sleeve. It felt like my whole life had been sucked into that one instant in her apartment, the laughter, the plans, the trust, gone without even the courtesy of an ending. My phone wouldn't stop ringing. Her name flashed over and over again, like it was mocking me. Then came my best friend's name. I turned it face down and kept driving. They could keep calling. I had nothing left to say. Somewhere around the outskirts of town, I pulled over at a gas station. My hands were trembling, not from anger, but from the sudden emptiness. I'd always thought heartbreak came with fire, but this was ice. Cold, heavy, and quiet. I sat there, watching a couple argue by the pump. The girl was crying, the guy was apologizing. Normal people, living through their own small tragedies. I envied them. At least their world still made sense. Mine had imploded in the middle of what was supposed to be the best day of my life. The funny thing about betrayal is how it rewrites time. Every memory gets contaminated. The night she said, "You're the only man I've ever truly trusted." The way my best friend used to joke, "Man, if you ever mess this up, I'll steal her from you." I thought he was kidding. Turns out he wasn't. I laughed out loud, bitterly. The universe had a twisted sense of humor. Then I did something that surprised even me. I drove straight past the wedding venue. I could have gone there, confronted everyone, blown it all up. But what was the point? They wanted a show, I'd give them silence. Instead, I went home. Packed a single bag, a few clothes, my passport, the bare essentials. I took my phone, scrolled through her photos one last time, then powered it off and threw it into the river on my way out of town. The splash felt symbolic, like burying a ghost. By the time anyone realized I wasn't showing up, I was already hours away. The messages started first. Then the calls. Then the panic. Her mother called my parents. The guests waited, confused, whispering. The music started playing, then stopped. My groomsmen stood awkwardly, trying to smile. Somewhere in the middle of that chaos, she must have realized I was gone, not late, not cold feet, but gone. I imagine her running out in that dress, mascara streaked, pretending she didn't know why I'd disappeared. Pretending everything was fine. But I knew her well enough to picture it, the fake smile cracking, the whispers starting, the shame creeping in. I wasn't there to see it, but I didn't need to. The silence I left behind did the job. I stopped at a motel that night. Cheap, anonymous. The kind of place where no one asks questions. I checked in under a fake name, paid in cash, and lay on the bed staring at the ceiling. My chest felt hollow. Not broken, just emptied out. I thought I'd feel satisfaction, revenge, triumph, something. But what I really felt was peace. Not the kind you pray for, the kind you earn after losing everything. I closed my eyes and imagined her realizing what she'd thrown away. The wedding cancelled. The guests leaving. The photographers packing up. My parents heartbroken. Her perfect day collapsing in slow motion. Good. Let her feel that silence. Let her explain it to everyone. Let her choke on her own excuses. Somewhere between midnight and dawn, I decided that this version of me, the man who almost got married, didn't exist anymore. I'd start over. New name, new place, no explanations. She'd never get the closure she wanted. Because closure is mercy, and she didn't deserve mercy. I got up, looked in the mirror, and for the first time in years, I didn't recognize the man staring back. He looked calm. Dead calm. That morning, while the sun rose over the wreckage of my old life, I walked out of that motel, got in the car, and kept driving with no destination. Somewhere behind me, a bride was crying in a ruined white dress. And somewhere ahead, a man with no past was finally free. When I disappeared, the world didn't stop, but hers did. By noon, the venue was chaos. Guests pacing, phones ringing, whispers spreading like wildfire. The band stopped mid-song, the officiant awkwardly waiting by the archway of flowers. Someone said I'd been in an accident. Someone else said I'd changed my mind. No one guessed the truth, that I'd already seen everything I needed to see. I was miles away by then, sitting in a roadside cafe, drinking black coffee that tasted like burnt regret. The waitress smiled, asked if I wanted cream. I almost laughed. Hours ago, I was supposed to be saying vows. Now I was watching strangers live their quiet, ordinary lives, the kind I suddenly envied. Back at the venue, she tried to keep the show going. I imagine her pacing in the dressing room, pretending she still had control. Maybe she told herself I'd come back. That I was just having a panic attack. She'd always been good at rewriting reality when it didn't fit her version of things. But as the hours passed, even she couldn't fake it anymore. Her voice cracked. Her parents started shouting. My family left early, humiliated. Her perfect image, the graceful, untouchable bride, began to crumble in front of hundreds of eyes. And then the truth began to leak. It started small. A groomsman overheard her on the phone the night before, whispering to someone she called baby. The florist noticed she'd sent extra bouquets to a hotel suite, not ours. Then the best friend's girlfriend, suspicious for weeks, came forward with messages she'd found. Screenshots. Dates. Times. It all fit together like a cruel puzzle. By evening, the truth was out. The best man, my so-called brother, was exposed first. His girlfriend threw his phone in the fountain in front of everyone. Guests filmed it. Someone even posted it online. Groom disappears after catching cheating fiancé. The video hit 10,000 views before the cake was even cut. She tried to save face, crying on the phone to her mother, to mine, saying I'd misunderstood. That it was just a mistake. But there's no misunderstanding three people tangled together in the same bed. That night, I stayed in another cheap motel, this time by the highway. I scrolled through the headlines. The comments. The messages from people who claimed to be shocked. I can't believe it. She didn't seem like that type. He must be devastated. I wasn't devastated anymore. Just detached. It's strange how quickly pain turns to numbness once you stop feeding it. By the next morning, she'd been dropped from her job at the wedding planning company she loved so much. The irony wasn't lost on me. The woman who built other people's fairy tales had destroyed her own. My best friend lost more than his job. His reputation disintegrated. Turns out, betrayal doesn't look good on a resume, especially when the whole city's gossiping about it. Her family tried to reach out. My mother too. They all wanted an explanation, something they could hold on to, some neat sentence to make it all make sense. But I gave them nothing. No statement, no closure, no confession. Just silence. Because silence hurts more than shouting ever could. Days turned into weeks. The wedding decorations came down. The catering bill went unpaid. The flowers withered in dumpsters behind the venue. I heard she sold her engagement ring to pay back part of the cost, but it didn't even cover the damage deposit. Meanwhile, I started over quietly. Rented a small apartment under a different name. Changed my number. Deleted every trace of her from my life. I didn't tell anyone where I was. But the universe has a cruel sense of humor, she still found me. An email. No subject line. Just one sentence. You ruined my life. I stared at it for a while, then closed my laptop without replying. Because the truth was simple, I didn't ruin her life. She did. I just walked away from the wreckage she caused. After that, the messages kept coming. Long, emotional essays. Promises to change. Then insults. Then apologies again. It was almost funny, the cycle of guilt, desperation, denial. She was grieving something she'd killed with her own hands. And my best friend? He never dared to reach out. Last I heard, he left town. Maybe he thought time would erase what he'd done. Maybe it did. I didn't care enough to find out. Every story has a climax, a breaking point. But betrayal doesn't end with an explosion, it ends with silence. The kind that follows you into every room, every night, every dream. I learned that when something breaks that deep, it doesn't make noise. It just stops existing. So I let them fade, her, him, the entire life I'd built. Because sometimes the cleanest revenge isn't fire or fury. It's peace. And peace is what they'll never have again. The world eventually forgot about the missing groom. But she didn't. I started hearing about her months later, through people who didn't even know I was connected. Small-town gossip travels faster than truth. Did you hear about that girl whose fiancé vanished? They'd whisper. Turns out she was cheating. Every time I overheard it, I stayed silent, just listened, like a ghost eavesdropping on his own obituary. By then, I'd built a new life. New city, new job, new name on the mailbox. My hair was shorter, my face harder. I slept better. Mostly. But sometimes I'd wake up at 3 a.m. and see it again, that image burned into the back of my mind. Her face twisted in shock, like I was the one who broke her heart. Guilt never came. Regret didn't either. Just clarity. She had reached out a few more times, through mutual friends, through her sister, even through fake accounts. The same tired cycle, I made a mistake, I miss you, you'll never find someone who loves you like I did. That last part always made me laugh. Love? No, that wasn't love. That was ownership disguised as affection. A friend from my hometown told me she'd been drinking heavily. That she'd lost weight. That she looked older, tired, hollow. Apparently, she'd tried dating again, but every guy eventually found out about the scandal. It's hard to rebuild a reputation when your name's been attached to betrayal. And the best friend? He didn't last long either. He got fired from his job, moved to another city, tried to start over, but people always find out. Betrayal leaves a smell you can't wash off. Meanwhile, I thrived quietly. The kind of life I'd once thought was boring, solitude, routine, peace, now felt sacred. I didn't need revenge. Watching them destroy themselves was enough. Sometimes I'd scroll through old photos, not out of longing, but curiosity. We looked so happy back then. But that happiness wasn't real, it was built on lies. She was already slipping away even while pretending to hold on. Maybe she wanted excitement, maybe attention, I stopped trying to figure it out. Some people crave chaos more than love. Years passed. And one morning, a message appeared in my inbox from an unfamiliar address. No threats, no drama. Just this. I still think about that day. I don't know who I was back then. I wish I'd never done it. For a moment, I almost felt something. Not forgiveness, just recognition. She wasn't writing to me. She was writing to her guilt. And I wasn't her confessor. I was the reminder of what she'd lost. I didn't reply. Some stories deserve to stay unfinished. The world has a strange way of balancing things. I heard she moved back in with her parents, started therapy, tried to rebuild. But nothing ever looked the same for her. Every wedding she saw, every white dress, every vow must have been a reminder. A punishment life gives without my help. And as for me, I learned to live without noise. No more checking phones, no more waiting for validation, no more pretending everything was perfect. I stopped needing closure because I realized she was never the ending I wanted. One evening, I drove back to my old town. Just once. Parked near the venue, the one where the wedding never happened. The building looked smaller, older. The paint was peeling, the garden overgrown. Time had erased everything except memory. I walked to the spot where I would have stood, waiting for her to walk down the aisle. I imagined it, the music, the applause, the vows. Then I smiled. Because in some twisted way, that day did save me. It just didn't look like salvation back then. I took the ring from my pocket, yes, I'd kept it. Not out of sentiment, but as proof of survival. The metal was dull now, scratched and cold. I threw it into the nearby lake and watched it sink beneath the surface. No splash, no drama. Just gone. That was the real wedding, me marrying peace, finally. I drove off as the sky turned gold, the reflection of the water fading in the mirror. Behind me was a story that started with betrayal and ended with silence. Ahead of me, nothing but the open road. People often say revenge is sweet. They're wrong. It's quiet. It's walking away while the fire still burns behind you and never looking back. She once told me I was too calm for my own good. Maybe she was right. Because in the end, calm is what destroyed her, and saved me. Now I live like a ghost of that wedding, not haunted, just invisible. And somewhere out there, she's probably still wondering where I went, still rewriting her version of that day. But she'll never know the truth. I didn't just leave the wedding. I left the man who would have stayed.